Hello, I'm Andrew Tan. I'm an alumnus of NUS. I'm also the founder and managing director of Consult Myanmar Company Limited. This is my presentation to the NUS MBA group entitled Doing Business in Myanmar, What You Need to Know as an Entrepreneur from Singapore. Take note that this topic was chosen by the NUS MBA group 1 month before their visit to my office. The actual introduction to the NUS MBA group is 4 minutes long. I've moved it to the end of this presentation for those who are interested. Now, a bit of story about myself. I first came to Myanmar in May 2012 to attend a Burmese friend's wedding. When the new foreign investment law was passed in November 2012, I read the content, understood that I can start a 100% foreign-owned company with only $50,000. I came over to Myanmar straight away. I moved to Yangon permanently in January 2013 and I rented this office and started the business. I must state that I'm very impressed by the way President Thein has led the country through national reconciliation and reforming the economy. The President has always walked the talk. My presentation will dissect many aspects of Myanmar way of life and way of doing business. It is not meant to be disrespectful. It is meant to be a constructive criticism of how, as a Singaporean who has a vested interest in this country, how I would like to see this country develop and grow. Now, to understand Myanmar, we need to look at the economic history of Myanmar. I'm going to use a series of 7 charts that was developed by McKinsey in their recent report on Myanmar. When it comes to designing charts that tell a vivid story about a business issue or challenges facing a country, there's no one better than McKinsey. So I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, I will just use the chart that they developed. This chart shows that a combination of 2 factors caused Myanmar to have the lowest GDP per capita in ASEAN. This is the per capita GDP in 2010 in thousands of dollars. Myanmar has one of the lowest GDP per capita in ASEAN at $800 US. This is caused by 2 factors. Only 50% of its population is employed, and it has very low labor productivity at $1,500 US. In fact, it is the lowest in ASEAN. McKinsey assumes that Myanmar wants to grow from 45 billion in 2010 to 200 billion in 2030, quadrupling its GDP in 20 years. To do that, Myanmar needs to grow by 8% annually from 2010 to 2030. 1% of the growth will come from increase in labor input, such as new people joining the workforce. That means that Myanmar labor productivity needs to grow by 7% annually for the next 20 years. However, historically, Myanmar has only managed to grow by 2.7%. So to grow from 2.7% to 7%, Myanmar needs to more than double its labor productivity growth for the next 20 years. This additional labor productivity growth is a big challenge for Myanmar, but it is also a big opportunity for entrepreneurs, as a lot of resources have to be spent on education, training and automation. Focused on the 2010 column, this chart shows the 7 major sectors of Myanmar economy. Myanmar is predominantly an agricultural society. Even though agriculture makes up 40% of Myanmar economy, it employs up to 70% of its population. Most farms are small land holding and the work is still done by hand with very low level of mechanization. So it is very unproductive. Myanmar export mainly pulse and beans to countries in South and North Asia. The other sector that contributes significantly to the export earning of Myanmar is mining and energy. This is a resource-based industry where a lot of effort is put into extracting mineral resources from the ground. The mining and energy industry is not a big employer of manpower in Myanmar as compared to agricultural. Myanmar has a small manufacturing sector which is predominantly focused on the domestic market. As it has been under Western sanction for a long time, there were not much export market for Myanmar manufactured product in the past. At the moment, most of Myanmar's manufactured product are low quality product that is targeted at the domestic market. Despite Myanmar's rich heritage and natural beauty, tourism is an underperforming sector due to the economic sanction in the past. Financial and telecom sector are washed out in Myanmar due to underinvestment and mismanagement. Myanmar population are mainly rural. Only 13% live in urban area in 2009. 87% of its people live in small towns and villages. According to McKinsey, Around 12 million people will migrate from rural to urban area in search of a better life by 2013. So there need to be a lot of investment in infrastructure such as building new town, industrial zone, road, bridges, port, airport, power plant, water treatment, etc. This chart shows a timeline over 130 years. It shows that Myanmar GDP stagnated in the middle of the 20th century, like from 1960 to 1980. When they experimented with socialism, and then it became a military-ruled state. The rest of ASEAN surged on during the same period. This chart tells the same story. GDP has been stagnating from 1940 to 1980. In the 1990s, Myanmar GDP started to pick up. Even in the 1990s, when Myanmar's GDP improved, its growth rate was at the lower end of the Asia average of 4.2, just above Pakistan and Philippines. Now, if you're from Singapore, which is famous for its clean street, green park, and world-class airport, what challenges will you find in Myanmar? Dysfunctional banking system. Most people still do not want to put their money in the bank due to past bank failures and prefer to hold cash. As banks have problem getting deposit, they also do not give out loan for buying cars or houses. Crumbling infrastructure. Daily power outage, road with potholes, overcrowded broken sidewalk, painfully slow internet speed, buildings that are poorly maintained, blocked drainage, and no potable water. Outrageous hotel rate and property rental. A 4-star hotel room costs like $250 per night. A grade A office in downtown Yangon is renting out for US 100 square foot, which is higher even than Manhattan or Tokyo. Inefficient civil service. When you go to government department, many are still using pen, paper, carbon paper and typewriter. Everything is done manually using abundant cheap labor that they have. This is my bar chart to give you an overview of the level of efficiency that Singapore and Myanmar are operating at. In Singapore, I would say that everything is running at 99% efficiency. In Myanmar, I would say that everything is running at 30% efficiency. The question we need to ask ourselves as an entrepreneur is this: is inefficiency good or bad? As an entrepreneur, when you approach a new market and you are trying to develop your product or services, you must constantly ask yourself two questions. Where is the inefficiency in the system? Due to the inefficiency, where is the pain point for the consumers or business user? If you can find the pain points for the consumers or the business user, you'll be able to develop products or services that will delight them and they will be more than willing to pay for. Let's recast the question and look at the issue from another angle. We can say that in Singapore, you only have 1% inefficiency or pain point that you can exploit to develop a good product or service. In Myanmar, you have a much broader range. You have maybe 70%. If you look at it this way, then Myanmar is every entrepreneur's dream. Since I'm a Singaporean and I know that many people in Singapore are flush with cash and they want to put their money in investment that makes money, let's look at what returns you get when you put money in the bank. Due to the low interest rate environment, if you put money in the bank in Singapore over the last 3 years, you are lucky you get 0.2% interest. If you put into fixed deposit, you get maybe 0.4%. After deducting for inflation, which is running at 2-3%, you basically earn nothing. There's this truism in Singapore that says that you can never lose money investing in property due to the scarcity of land in Singapore. Due to the low interest rate environment over the last 3 years, many investors have placed their savings into property thinking that it's a hedge against inflation. As a result, everyone is aggressively buying property and then renting it out, driving the price up so much that the rental yield have all been plunging. At the same time, rental has been easing as the government has tightened the tap on foreign labor. Rental yield is now below 3% in Singapore and is barely compensating for inflation. So you don't make money investing in property now in Singapore. Another truism in Singapore is that you can't lose money operating a restaurant, as Singaporeans love to eat and they must eat at least 3 times a day and they are not price sensitive. You pay $10,000 a month to rent a shop in a good shopping mall. You spend another $200,000 renovating it, and then what happened? You can't hire foreign workers to be waiter, waitresses and dishwashers as the government is tightening the foreign labor tap. So you rob all your relatives to help you serve tables and clean the dishes. At the end, you sell off your restaurant and close it down as it is straining your relationship with your relative and is not viable anymore. So it's becoming a vicious cycle. You put money in the bank, don't make money. Put money in property, don't make money. Put money in opening a restaurant, don't make money. Put money in the bank again, still don't make money. Singaporeans are fighting to make money in that 1% inefficiency space, and in the process bid up the price of all asset class in that small space, and thus not getting any return. Have you heard this saying? Insanity is doing the same thing again and again and hoping to get different result each time. Guess which famous man said this? Albert Einstein. Now I must qualify this statement by saying that our Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong has tried to address this issue during the recent National Day speech by creating new space for growth for our future generation. He said that over the next 20 years he's planning to move the Air Force Base from the central eastern region of Singapore to the eastern tips of the island next to the current Changi Airport. He's going to move the Port of Singapore from the south of the country to the western tip of the country, in the process freeing up large tracts of land for development. With the Air Force Base removed from the central eastern region of the country, it allows us to build another new town in the vacant lot. At the same time, it also removed the height restriction on building in the central eastern region of the country. So now we can build upwards and the sky is the limit. When the port is moved out from the south of Singapore, the vacant coastline can be turned into waterfront cities and marinas. He said that these projects will take 30 years to reach fruition. It will create space and opportunity for our children. I say, why wait 30 years? You have the opportunity and the space now in Myanmar. If you are a young Singaporean, you need the opportunity now. Come to Myanmar, where there's so much opportunity for growth, experimentation and creativity. Next question. As an entrepreneur, the continuing US sanction on many tycoons in Myanmar, is that good or bad? To an American entrepreneur, they face the problem of finding the right partner in Myanmar, as most of the Myanmar tycoons are on the US watch list, meaning that most US entrepreneurs can only partner the small Myanmar businessmen. The due diligence and reporting requirements significantly increase their cost of doing business in Myanmar. Most small businesses will go bankrupt if they have to meet all these due diligence process and reporting requirements. As a result, American companies will be slower in entering the Myanmar market. To an Asian entrepreneur, it is a godsend, as you do not have major US brands to compete with. Imagine no McDonald's, KFC, Pizza Hut or Starbucks. Instead, you'll find Korean brands such as Lotteria and barbecue chicken. The Koreans are setting the reference taste for burger and fried chicken among the Myanmar consumer, as well as in terms of pricing and service level. By the time the American arrives after 2015, they'll be seen as not the original taste, but just a copycat and a Me Too product. Our Singapore retail brands such as Chewy Junior and Ya-Kun are not doing too badly either. As there are many Burmese living in Singapore, it is very easy for Singapore brands to enter into Myanmar quietly without having to pay a premium. I don't expect the American to lift the remaining sanction till after 2015 election. So now is a good time for Asian brands to enter the Myanmar market while the US brands are absent. As an entrepreneur, if you're entering a new market that is culturally different from your own, you need to examine all your assumptions, especially if it is a key assumptions about the market that underlie your business. You cannot believe 100% in everything you read in textbook or newspaper. You need to develop your own hypothesis about the market and find some quick way of testing your hypothesis to see if it is true. Because if your assumptions are wrong, your actions will be wrong. If it is true, adopt it and exploit the opportunity quickly. If it is false, you need to discard it and to develop new hypotheses about the market. Have you heard this saying? It ain't what a man knows that make him a fool, it is what he knows that ain't. This quote is attributable to American humorist Josh Billing.